Good evening, hello and welcome to Brass Tacks. I'm Anusha Soni. The crisis in the Taiwan Strait is only escalating with the Chinese dragon breathing fire. After the U.S. House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi visit to Taiwan, it's Xi's turn, and he has not just heightened the war rhetoric, but has taken it many steps further. The Chinese have announced joint air and sea drills near Taiwan, along with test launches of conventional missiles in the East Sea of the country. China fired ballistic missiles, deployed fighter jets and warships as it held its largest ever military exercises around the island nation. In the midst of this brewing crisis, there's a stunning claim by the neighbor country Japan. Japanese defense minister says that 5 ballistic missiles launched by the Chinese military have fallen into Japan's exclusive economic zone. They call it a violation. With this move, the Chinese have made it clear that US or Taiwan can't get away if they cross the red line drawn by Beijing. How grave would be the consequences, and to what extent? How would the US respond? Our top focus tonight, but first up, a special report.
Live-fire missile drills. Choppers and jets deployed. Long-range rockets launched. A day after Nancy Pelosi's Taiwan visit, the dragon is breathing fire. China is holding its largest ever military exercise in the seas around Taiwan. The exercises are taking place in multiple zones around Taiwan. Some are just within 20 kilometers of the island. In the border island of Pingtang, Chinese military choppers were seen flying past. China has deployed more than 100 fighter jets, bombers and other warplanes in the airspace of Taiwan. According to Taipei's defense ministry, China fired multiple ballistic missiles into waters around Taiwan. Taiwan has in turn moved howitzers and mortars close to areas where PLA is carrying out drills. Beijing has defended the drills as necessary and blamed the US for the escalation.
We are left with no choice but to take resolute measures to uphold our sovereignty and territorial integrity. And will this become a new normal? It hinges on the action of the US side and the Taiwan independence forces.
Despite China's fury, Nancy Pelosi's extraordinary stopover in Taiwan was the first high-level visit by a US official in 25 years. But by pledging support to Taiwan's democracy, a shadow has been cast on Washington's One China policy.
America stands with Taiwan. I think that whatever China was going to do, they will do in their own good time.
In a major escalation, Japan claimed 5 ballistic missiles launched by China's military landed inside Japan's exclusive economic zone for the very first time. Japan has lodged a protest, and at least a dozen Japanese and US F-15 fighter jets have taken off from Okinawa. So given the backlash that we're witnessing from China, has Pelosi's visit caused more harm than good?
Getting you all the updates. Joining us on the broadcast is CNN's Will Ripley. He's joining us live from Taipei. Thank you, Will, for speaking to us and joining us on the broadcast. My first question to you is about the Chinese aggression. China is mounting offensive post Nancy Pelosi's visit. But is the threat to Taiwan real or rhetorical? Is it just posturing, or we could actually see this war rhetoric actually translating into reality on the ground?
Well, it depends on what you would consider actual. I mean, launching missiles over Taiwan and splashing down in the waters off of Japan is certainly at least a reminder of the actual threat that Taiwan has faced for decades. I mean, Chinese missiles are always pointed at this island. We've always known they could arrive here in a matter of minutes. China is simply demonstrating it in a way at a scale that we have not seen before. And the provocations are dialed up, and they're using Nancy Pelosi's visit as an excuse to cross the median line of the Taiwan Strait now, dozens of times, to fire these ballistic missiles for the first time in this trajectory, and then to conduct military exercises that are so close to Taiwan and, encircling the island. None of these things have happened before, and they're all happening right now. And China is using the Nancy Pelosi visit as the reason why they're doing it. So I thought the question you raised at the beginning is a good one. Did the visit do more harm than good? And I think we won't know the answer to that until we see how this all plays out.
Yeah. Going forward, how critical are the next 72 hours? As you pointed out, the escalation that we are seeing on the ground with the missiles being pointed. We have also seen a sort of statement that came from the Japanese side where they said that there were missiles that entered their economic zones, which were under the Japanese. How the next 72 hours are going to be is very, very critical for that regional security and stability.
Well, clearly, these military drills, these live-fire drills are taking place in these 6 locations near Taiwan. And so for the next 72 hours through the weekend, essentially, they're going to have to reroute flights, either Japan or the Philippines flight routes, because of some flight routes are not going to work right now because they'd have to fly over the drill zone. You also have the potential for collateral damage if people were to get into one of these military drill zones. And until these drills are over and until the temperature dials back down, we don't know what's going to happen because, as you said, there's a lot more military hardware that's actively engaging right now. But look, I think the bigger question is we need to watch over the next 12 months, 24 months. I mean, we know U.S. intelligence certainly believes, and I think a lot of analysts would agree, that China is working towards getting its military at a point where they feel comfortable that they could just take Taiwan. And a lot of analysts say if Xi Jinping felt that he could take Taiwan very quickly and painlessly, not a Ukraine scenario, but faster, that he would have already done it. And he would like to do it while he's in power. So if that is the case, then Taiwan certainly has a lot on its plate in terms of training its defense, its own defensive forces, and also continuing to have allies like Nancy Pelosi speaking on their behalf at democracies in legislatures around the world, because it's going to require help if Taiwan is going to survive an attack by mainland China someday.
Well, that leads me to another question. And as you're tracking all the details from Taipei, how prepared is Taiwan with this threat looking imminent right into their face? And as you said, not just 72 hours, the next 12 to 24 months are going to be very, very critical. How prepared are they?
Well, look, I mean, Taiwan has one might argue, a bit of an outdated military structure. It still has a lot of old school, big budget weapon systems that, frankly, could be destroyed in a matter of hours if they came under attack, a heavy attack, from China. Yeah. Even the most advanced fighter jets, the F-16Vs that Taiwan has in their fleet now, are no match for the Chinese fighter jets that they are flying now into the Taiwan Strait. In fact, 22 more, we just got word, crossed over the median line of the Taiwan Strait this evening, or earlier today as well. So in a direct military type of scenario, the best thing that Taiwan could probably hope for is to be able to fend them off just long enough for reinforcements to arrive. And this is not going to be a situation where you can just ship weapons into Taiwan like they're doing to Ukraine, because Taiwan is an island. And if China had set up some sort of a blockade, basically this would involve other nations having to commit resources, in a Pacific, combat that we have not seen in decades. Yes. And except now we're in a world with lots of nuclear weapons. And China relies on artificial intelligence in many cases to make some of these decisions, because they don't have the experience, the long-term experience within their ranks of generals that they have in the United States, where they rely on humans to make the calls. It's a scary scenario any way you look at it, so one can only hope that the tensions dial down and that they find some sort of a diplomatic way out of all of this.
Yes. My last question to you is about the economic concerns. There are various economic consequences which Chinese warned against, and there's a lot of action that they have taken against. How much are the Chinese businesses affected in the next few days, other than this, brewing military conflict? The consequences, the economic consequences for Taiwan could be very, very real and damaging.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't know that Taiwan relies on exports to China for a huge portion of its economy. I mean, China is Taiwan's top export partner, and it makes sense. Yeah. It's 100 miles across the Taiwan Strait to mainland China. They speak the same language up until 70 plus years ago, they shared a heritage. They share so many things. They have so many things in common, and yet unfortunately they have two governmental systems that are so drastically different that's what sets up this dynamic. And so China's now banning the imports of a growing list of items from Taiwan. That could certainly hurt the economy here. And yes, so there's going to be economic collateral damage, not to mention any potential military and diplomatic damage as well.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the broadcast. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us.